Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm finally filming my 2017 yearly book recommendations. If I look back at 2017, it wasn't a good reading year for me because I was still in school. Most of the books that I read were school related, so I didn't have so many options. But there are still some books that I enjoyed reading, and I promised someone on my channel that I would post it as soon as possible. So let's get started. When I went through my bookshelf, the first book that I decided to put into this video is this one, Tooth of Thailand by Tim Ferriss. This author has his own podcast where he interviews a lot of really successful people, and this book is like the essence of his whole show. When you first look at this book, it seems very daunting, so many pages, but it's actually really well organized. It comes with 3 sections, and the first one is health. There are people talking about diet and talking about exercise, and it has some pictures in here. At first, I wasn't so interested in that, but recently I started to become really interested in like detox and exercise, yoga. So I got a lot of useful information from this book. And the second section is all about how to make money, but it's more than that. I think it's more like how to build up your career, that kind of thing. And the third one is wise, just some life lessons, It might sound a little bit cliche, how to succeed in life. Here are some life lessons, but I guarantee you this book is not that. I think the cool thing about this book is that there are hundreds of perspectives from people in this book, and you literally just flip through it and you can see hundreds of people talking about different things, but the author kind of summarized them into 3 sections, and it's really organized. According to the author, don't read this book cover to cover. It's more like a toolbox than a real book. If you just, go through all the people in here and whoever interests you, just read their pages. I definitely treat it that way. I just put this one on my coffee table and just read randomly sometimes. And I think so far I probably finished 90% of it. So I definitely recommend this book for anyone who wants to maybe get ahead in their career or just want to have a better quality life in general. I think that's everybody. The next 2 books, you guys probably guessed it. It's Kafka on the Shore and Norwegian Wood. I think 2017 was a year for me to discover new authors. I read so many authors that I never read before, and I was really glad that I started reading Murakami. Murakami is so well loved in Asia and in the West as well, and I'm so late to this game. If I compare these 2 books, this one is more to the supernatural side, is standard Murakami work, and this one is a really mellow, depressing story about mental health. I love them both, but if I have to pick, I would pick Kafka on the Shore because I think I never read anything like this. This, however, I read some similar stories, and this one has a supernatural side of it, so that's what I like about Murakami. Now comes to think about it, I don't think these books are life-changing and so deep, It's deep sometimes, but it's not like a profound deep that can change your life, that can change your whole perspectives on life. But they were definitely interesting reads. I didn't want to put them down when I was reading them. And sometimes people read for pleasure, We don't have to read classics all the time. So if you're bored and you want to read some different stories, I recommend these 2. In 2017, I read about 4 or 5 classic books, and there were 3 that I really love. The first one is Frankenstein. I never thought I would read Frankenstein because I used to think I know how the story goes, but turned out I didn't know shit about Frankenstein. I used to think Frankenstein is the name of the monster, but turned out the name Frankenstein was the name of the doctor who created the monster. I was so glad I found out about it because it would be embarrassing if I try to argue with someone, So I read Frankenstein, and at first I couldn't really get into it because the story is multi-layered. It's an outsider happened to meet with the doctor, and the doctor was telling him the story, the real story. And so it follows different people, and it was a little bit confusing, at the beginning because I was trying to figure out who is the main character. So I kept reading, and then the real story started to unfold. I was shocked. There was something about the old English language that just fascinates me. I think I really like reading old English language. I don't know why. It just seems so different than how we talk and how we write nowadays. The book is so short. It's not even 300 pages. So I think if you want to start reading classic books and you don't want to read something that is so long, then start with Frankenstein. Okay, the next classic books that I read and I loved. Crime and Punishment. You know what? The book was actually a lot shorter than I expected. In this version, it is only 540 pages. It's not that long for a Russian classic book. I kind of hate myself for not being able to use more fancy words to describe this book. The name of this book tells it all. Yes, there was a crime, and then the punishment, what happened after the crime. I think the crime part, if it got made into a movie, even nowadays, it would still be really satisfying to watch. It's pretty thrilling, like a thriller. And the punishment part became this philosophical debate between the main character and some other scholars that he met. And the main character was trying to maybe justify himself by saying if someone committed a crime, if the crime can benefit the society in the long run, then would he be punished? Like the most famous cases in the world, when someone started a revolution, definitely blood was shed, people were killed, but it benefited the society in the long run. So do they need to be punished? So that's basically the philosophical point from this main character. And the last reason that I love about this book is the way it describes poverty. It's so vivid, you can feel it. It talks about one specific family that suffers from poverty. It's so real. It will make you so depressed. The next classic book is this Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. This is my first Tolstoy book. I was gonna read War and Peace, but I discovered that there were like 20 pages that was written in French at the beginning of the book, and it was over 1,000 pages. When I decided to read Anna Karenina, I thought it was gonna be super difficult because it's Tolstoy. And then it was surprisingly easy to understand. There were just the stories between different renowned families and some main characters. It's just that. But Tolstoy is super good at describing human emotions, men and women. There were many times that when I was reading the female character, and I was shocked. I was like, how did Tolstoy know about this? And then I was like, well, he's Tolstoy, The reason I love this book is that the story kind of expands for a decade. It was like reading someone's life. It's pretty epic. I just think it's a really fun read. If you want to read some good literature, but you are not super into this bleak kind of story, I think maybe start with Anna Karenina. This will definitely give you hope. Oh, a classic book is this easy to read. The next book is Homesick for Another World. I don't feel comfortable recommending this book because I know most people probably won't like this book. Well, maybe people do. I don't know what people think actually. The book is so dark. It's all about fucked up people, weird shit that is happening. I rarely got embarrassed or disgusted when I was reading a book. But this time, I got so embarrassed sometimes I have to shut the book. But also for the same reason, that's why I love this book. It is pretty powerful. It will definitely make you feel something when you're reading it. I think that's a pretty amazing feeling. Just some words can give you chills and can make you have all these kind of emotions. So I think for that reason, I really love the book. And the stories were definitely interesting. So if your mind is also really dark, like me, maybe check this out. Maybe you will like it. This is something different that I read in 2017 that I never read anything like this before. I'm gonna talk about the last book. It's pretty funny that I read nearly 50 books in 2017, and then all I care about are the ones that I just showed you guys, and this one as well. Psychopath Test. I talked about this so many times. It's definitely the best nonfiction I read in 2017. It talks about psychopath. Yes, I just love psychopath and psychology, all that jazz. Each of the chapters in this book tells you a different story. But I think there are some chapters that are connected, maybe chapter 2 and chapter 5. And during chapter 3, 4, the author will tell you something else, maybe tells you another story, and you will be amazed how quick your opinion can change just based on 2 chapters between them. The view towards that person just can change like that. I have always been loving John Ronson. I still have a book on my shelf. It's called The Man Who Stared at Goats. I'm gonna read that probably next month. So if you are fascinated by serial killer, mass murderer, war criminals, psychopath in corporates, just definitely give this book a try. Even though it's a nonfiction, but it's super story oriented. It's so interesting. You wouldn't get bored with this. I listened to the audiobook of this one and I read the whole book all over again and I wasn't bored. If you want to read some nonfiction but you also don't want to get bored, definitely check this out. Okay, I think I talked about 8 books in this video. I really picked up the ones that I genuinely love. I didn't want to just put in a bunch of crap and make it my top 10 or top 15, just for the sense of totality. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And also, I will continue to do my monthly book report video. The next one will be out by the end of February. And stay tuned for that. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.